Welcome to the Female VC Lab podcast. I'm here at Milken. Thank you so much, Milken. And I have Cheryl Evans here today. Cheryl, in one line, give me your name, your title, and your area of impact.
Hi, thanks for having me, Barbara. I am Cheryl Evans. I'm director of the Lifetime Financial Security Program at the Milken Institute. We focus on people being financially secure throughout their lives and into retirement.
What inspired you to get into this area, and how does one go about doing that?
Well,
of longevity and retirement planning.
It is a rather unique job, actually. I'm a securities lawyer by training, so I worked
Yes.
for 11 years at the SEC in trading and markets and enforcement. I've done other things, worked at CFA Institute, Chamber of Commerce, so I was focused on the capital markets. And then I separately got some training as a life coach and focused on talking to people about retirement and transitions in their lives. And then I'd seen this position, and I knew who Mike Pilwabar is, the EVP of MI Finance, because he'd been at the SEC when I was there, although we just knew people in common. And I knew great things about the Milken Institute. So it's a nice marrying of my experience and interests. And so I'm really excited to do the work focusing on, a lot of the work is focused on retirement, but we broadened it out to early wealth building and other issues. So how one gets into it is a challenge. I think probably this kind of work, most people work in finance and know finance to do this kind of work, but then there are people who go in from retirement firms, and then they may go into a think tank. We're a global think tank.
Yes. You were just discussing your previous panel about Gen Z and millennials. Can you talk a little bit about that and how what you do is impactful to them?
Yes. I said at the outset of the panel that there's a lot of focus in the last few years, 2024 to 2027, at what people call peak 65, when the most boomers are turning 65. And so that's getting 11,200 a year on average. So that's getting a lot of attention, longevity, people living longer, and we have an aging population. But we realize we don't want to leave out the younger generations when we think about this. And as I was thinking about it and reading things, I read headlines at the beginning of the session like Gen Z is afraid they can't buy a home. We're hearing all these kind of things.
Living longer with their parents.
Yeah,
and
there's
things of that
a lot
nature.
of headwinds. So that's what we called the session. And so we were focused in that way. And also, as I work with younger people, I realize a lot of these millennials particularly, but both, they're stepping up and they're going to be leading us. They're going to be taking over.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to hand the reins to them. There's so many smart, savvy younger people, but there are some headwinds. So we put together a panel that included the global chief economist for PwC to give us that macro outlook. We had Dot Kelly, who teaches personal finance at UVA. We had Khalil Bird from Schur, who focuses on student loan debt, which is a huge headwind,
huge, yes, right now, yes.
And then we also had Catherine Collinson from Transamerica. She's CEO of the Institute, and she does the Retirement Institute. I think it's just called the Institute, actually. She does a lot of generational research. And then we had Sylvia Kwan, who took over for Sally Krawcheck as CEO of Elevest. Focused on women. And there's a great wealth transfer right now. So women are saving less than men, and we have a women's initiative. So it was really a great panel, and there were a lot of younger people in the audience. And some of it was identifying the issues, and then some of it was what can you do differently?
Yes.
So it was a really interesting and engaging panel, really smart people. So I'm happy about that.
That's wonderful. So yesterday there was a panel. There was a panel and then another panel. So Peyton Manning was on the first part of the panel, which I'll be writing about. But then you have led the second half of the panel talking about retirement and some of the products that are available and some of the things that you should be thinking about in that area of your life, in that transition period. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how that wealth transition is impacting how people are living longer, how people are looking at how they're investing or saving or...
Yeah, it was called Retirement Lessons. We did begin with Peyton Manning, which was super cool.
That was so great.
We got to meet him. I got a little autograph. I got a picture and a photo, and an autograph.
That's wonderful.
Football helmet. But Peyton talked about his sort of second half, which, of course, it's not going to be the usual second half.
No,
He's super successful. But he highlighted some interesting points, and some of the things that you talk about in football apply to life about transitioning and being able to pivot and those kind of things.
Yes.
And he mentioned his work with Nationwide.
And leadership as well. He talked about that. That was very interesting.
Funny. So it was a session. So our retirement session had retirement leaders and experts. And so we decided to have it be geared towards three audiences. Those who are trying to save but haven't saved a lot, don't know a lot about retirement. Those who are doing okay but really want to be able to tweak their strategy, want to know more to get to the next level. And then those who are working in the industry, whether they're employers who are creating plans, those they called helpers. So we geared it towards everyone. So it was a fairly broad discussion. Christine Benz was there from Morningstar, and she's written a book on retirement, another book. And then we had Nationwide and others there. Apollo, Athene, actually.
Yeah, Athene.
And then we had I don't want to say oddly, but it was a little bit unusual. We had the CIO of NYSTRA, the New York State Retirement Fund.
That was actually very interesting.
Yeah, it was an interesting addition, and he really wanted to join. And we focused on the difference between pensions because most people don't have pensions. We've done research in that space. Eric Stevenson had a lower number than I had. Public sector workers have pensions, and we hope they keep them in the current environment.
Yes.
And then the number of people who have workplace pensions has gone from 60-some% in the 80s, and by some accounts, by other accounts, it's lower, 40s or 50s, down to 15, some percent, some are 8%. So trying to replace that pension income, that lifetime income, is a key issue and factor. And so the industry has gotten together, and when I say the industry, most large financial firms have created these products, which are lifetime income, guaranteed income products, which are essentially an annuity embedded in a 401k plan. So you get lifetime income. You can opt generally. The products differ slightly, but you can opt for all the money to go into lifetime income or a portion of it. And that's guaranteed just like your pension would. It's not adjusted for inflation like Social Security is, but it's really could be a game changer for people. And in fact, we wrote a paper on that.
Yes.
We've been gathering experts and then interviewing them, having some policy dinners. And it's called Enhancing Retirement, Advancing Lifetime Income for All. So we got at what are the reasons it's not being taken up enough. And some are lawsuits. ERISA lawyers sue for changes in plans, and that's a little opportunistic, we think. And then there's the notion of really educating. I don't think the average person knows what is lifetime income and why do I need it? Do I need that? So we want people to understand it. We want the employers to understand the products more. And then we also feel it should be its own asset class. So that's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting when they were discussing about it should be its own asset class. Because it was interesting on the panel, there was a how do you want to retire? Or you just want to have the same income? Do you want to have growth in your income? Or how do you imagine the second half of you as an individual? And that would dictate how you wanted to retire. It could have been based on just income. Okay, I just want to have this fixed amount and live this. Or it could have run into, hey, I want to really grow wealth and have more philanthropic or investing or things of that nature.
Do you want to leave a legacy as one?
Yes.
And then is that not important to you? Is that not necessary? And then Christine and others emphasize the need for personalization of your plan.
Right.
For years, retirement experts referred to the 4% rule, and that was touched upon, but we didn't really ask that question, which was you could normally draw down 4% over time of your principal if you just have that pot of money, so to speak, and not outlive your money. But people have adjusted that. But we want people to think, to your point, how do you want to live your life? Do you want to travel a lot at the beginning? Do you want to draw down more at the beginning? Do you want to just spend it all? Do you want to leave some? So people really need to personalize that. And Christine Benz had a good point she's written about and surveyed other people in her book as well, visualizing your life. You got to plan the life so you know how you're going to fund it, how much you need. Now, we do know the average person isn't saving enough in general for retirement. And Social Security, as of this year, I think the average benefit is like $1,975, which most people cannot live on.
Just not enough.
Yeah, that's lifetime income, and it's adjusted for inflation, but most people are going to be at or near the poverty level because many people are getting less than that.
Yes.
So these guaranteed income products are key. And then they also highlighted things like planning the spend down portion, the decumulation. I don't know these terms when I started working in retirement. I didn't know that plan sponsors or decumulation. And thinking about that, what taxes do you want to pay? What are you going to pay? How are you going to? What are the sequence of returns? What are your risks? And how risk averse are you?
Right.
You want to still be aggressively invested because you really need to de-risk as you get older. You need to have less in bonds and more in cash and probably more in bonds, less in
more active.
Less in equities. So there were not a lot of interesting points, I think, that were made. And I think lifetime income, we come to believe at Milken that it's really key for everyone to have that.
I think so.
Exciting.
So how do you think your area, I'm going to call it of longevity, is going to impact venture capital going forward? Because like you said a bit earlier, there's a massive wealth transfer happening.
Yes.
And so where is all that money going to go? Because some people, if we're talking about you're 65 and you're going to even live to 100, that's still 35 more years on the planet. So how do you see that happening?
Yeah, I mean, that's a challenge, I think. We talked about the wealth transfer in terms of a lot of it's going to go to women because they tend to live longer and they tend to be caregivers. So we want women to prepare for that. But as far as where the money's going to go, I think it's an interesting point because we're also focused on the need for longer working lives. Because if you're going to live to be 100,
yes.
And the stats that we had in our original paper that shifting the retirement paradigm, moving towards lifetime financial security piece, I dug in maybe more than I needed to, but I was kind of shocked at the stats. The average person is going to be pushed out of their job at age 58 to 60, and only 10% will go on to earn the same amount of money.
Wow.
So that is a key issue. I think in thinking about this, we're seeing more younger people and older people and starting businesses at an older age. And those who are most successful are those in their 50s.
Who start.
VC capital. And
so that's interesting, right? Yeah. Because if you have that big wealth transfer and it's going to transfer to women, potentially more women will get funding as well at some point because of that.
And that's how we're thinking about it in a sense. And we've started a women's financial security initiative focusing on making sure women are confident enough and also confident in themselves. And the coolest thing I've gotten to do so far since I've been here was after we reached out to Gloria Steinem to lead a talking circle in her home on March 20th. Oh, wow. So we sat down with Gloria with some financial experts, and she talked about women's confidence and making sure you're assuring your own futures. And of course, she's been fighting for equal pay and women to be able to run their own businesses for years. And it's not really gone as well as she would have hoped, I think. But we're thrilled to be with her at age 91. We're going to do some more things.
There you go.
Which was really exciting. So.
That's exciting. That's exciting. So Cheryl, what are you currently reading or listening to or learning these days?
Yeah, I'm spending a lot of my time reading about our own work, but because we're going to be
that's wonderful
having our financial security work go global. So I'm
that's great.
On some work possibly with the UN SGA, that special advocate through Queen Maxima in the Netherlands. We hope to highlight that. A thing I had been listening to, which kind of got me to Gloria Steinem in a sense, is I really like Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Wiser Than Me podcast.
Oh, wow.
She interviews women and
wonderful
older women.
Oh,
and
wow.
They're all wiser than her. And
that's
she
very
interviewed
cool.
Gloria, and you're going to hear from women all walks of life, and there's always some great nugget of information. That's not really reading; it's me listening. But
that's listening. That's qualifies.
And I also bought and read when I was traveling to Renaissance Weekend. I had Mel Robbins' book, Let Them, where she's highlighting that notion of letting people show who they are. But it applies not just to romantic relationships, but all relationships. And I think women sometimes tend to try to fix things for other people, and you need to just see who people are. And then,
that's right. Let them be
let
sometimes.
Them be, and then say, okay, do I like this or not? And that applies to a lot of things because we can't control other people. And so we can control ourselves. So we need to be in control of our own financial future. Certainly.
Absolutely. Okay. Since this is a female VC lab, I'm going to ask you the bonus question, Cheryl.
Okay.
In 2 years, how do you see venture capital having changed or evolved?
Given what we just said, I'm hopeful that there'll be more women in VC, more women starting companies, running companies, and leading some of the current VC firms. And we're seeing that a bit, but we do hope that's the case. And I think that there may be a role for VC, particularly as the government's pulling back.
Yes.
To do good and to make a difference in lots of ways in what they invest in. So I feel like that can be a key issue going forward and something that will probably happen to some extent. So
wonderful. So how do people contact you?
Yes. Happy to have people contact me. It's just my name, and it's Cheryl Evans, but it's C. Evans, altogether, like one word, at milkeninstitute.org. And they can even call me 646-988-9972 if they're interested in engaging with the Lifetime Financial Security Program or hearing about anything regarding the Milken Institute. And I will just lastly say that we're opening the museum. Mike Milken doesn't like to call it that, but the MCAD Center, Milken Center for Advancing the American Dream. And of course, financial security is the underpinning of the American dream. So we're excited about that. It's going to be super high tech. It's in Washington, right by the White House.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Cheryl Evans from the Milken Institute, the Lifetime